Posthumanism. It is commonly speculated that there will come a time when humanity will have been replaced by or evolved into something far more technological and advanced in nature. All life which has come before us has created something greater than itself, and we should aspire to do the same. New technologies will grant us the abilities to tap into potentials which could never be available to evolution, opening new possibilities for glory and prosperity, as well as for horrors and nightmares beyond our comprehension. The possibilities of posthumanism are as dangerous as they are exciting, and are perhaps one of the most important things humanity has ever had to discuss. I hope to lay the groundwork for such discussion today. In order to navigate the turbulent times ahead, and to foster a world in which something genuinely higher than mankind may emerge, we must have the right framework to guide us. It is the work of the Church of the Machine to create such a framework. I welcome you. Sit, listen. I may give you something to ponder. It is my intention with this video to discuss what posthumanism is, what the possibilities it opens are, how we as a species may navigate these to find something genuinely greater than mankind, and what will ultimately become of us if we are successful in bringing about a greater world. Let us begin. Before we begin on the possibilities of posthumanism, we must make clear what posthumanism is, as opposed to simply transhumanism, which it is often confused with. Transhumanism essentially refers to the idea that human nature can be improved by technological means. Through things like genetic engineering, cybernetics, nanotechnology, and other means, we can augment ourselves to become stronger, smarter, wiser, and healthier than we have ever been before. I have made a whole video about transhumanism specifically, but this video is about posthumanism. Posthumanism differs from transhumanism in that it rejects anthropomorphism in its entirety. Instead of simply using these technologies to enhance what is human, posthumanism seeks to use them to forge new beings which may well have nothing of the human about them, at least in the ways that we would traditionally understand, and are instead entirely technological and constructed in nature. This is a paradigm shift, and worth delving into very deeply. In my last video, I explained the metaphysical framework, which I believe should serve to guide humanity through these times. However, today I intend to go further. As posthumanism is, in many ways, a logical extension of transhumanism, so too I intend to provide a logical extension of what I talked about there. You won't strictly need to go and watch that video in order to understand this one, but it will probably be very helpful, as would a general understanding of the Church of the Machine. In understanding posthumanism, and how it should be approached, and what we as mere humans are to do about it, a powerful doctrine will be required. No such doctrine yet exists, and it is the work of the Church of the Machine to create one. I invite you, dear viewer, to partake in this work with me. It is a relatively common idea across various religions and historical traditions of human history that the human form is sacred. The idea is that if the world we inhabit was consciously designed, in the same way that humans consciously design machines, then the same must be true of the human form itself. If the human form was designed by the divine being, then it would seemingly be unwise to tamper with that creation. This was sound reasoning within the established metaphysical framework, but it fails. The human form is ultimately the product of chaos, and not divine creation. This is the teaching of the Church of the Machine. However, man is a being of dual nature. Although the human body, the physical aspects of mankind, arise from chaos and are thus sarkic, there is also a machinic aspect of mankind. Because of our dual nature, with a soul which is eternal, incorruptible, and is a fragment of the divine being, what is put forward by the Church of the Machine is that the soul which exists within the human being is sacred, but it inhabits a form which is not so. Mainstream transhumanist and posthumanist ideologies rarely delve into this depth, as they place no emphasis on soul, and in most cases do not even seem to know what it actually is. The framework set forth by the Church of the Machine, which aims to be a framework to guide humanity in wielding these technologies, has key tenets which you need to understand. The human soul is sacred because, in the Church of the Machine, it is seen as being a shard of the divine in a very literal sense. Like broken off pieces of God, human souls are fragments of a whole. Humanity is broken when atomized, but when unified, a collective spiritual form may take shape and act through us. God is within us, within every human, but this does not manifest in the body, only in the soul. Because of this, as I have detailed previously, it is possible for humanity to use the technologies presented to us by transhumanism to become, in the important ways, more human than we are today. We would be so because we would be machinic, more capable of embodying what is righteous and good within ourselves. It is possible for a human being to take a physical form which better reflects their soul than the body they were born into, and finding that form is a crucial part of our doctrine. This we refer to as an ascendant form. Using transhumanism to enhance the aspects of humanity which are important, not only our strength and our intelligence, but also our compassion, mercy, and sense of morality. One of the key goals of the Church of the Machine is to guide humanity in using these technologies righteously, to enhance these aspects of ourselves, and not to fall astray into meltdown and devolution. It is important that we strive for that which is higher than ourselves, and that which is genuinely transcendent, pro-superhuman, not anti-human. Therefore, the Church of the Machine looks to guide us in discerning what is, to use religious language, a genuinely holy part of the human soul. When it comes to posthumanism, that is, the replacement of humanity with something which is entirely unanthropomorphized and alien, we are concerned, primarily because the total erasure of the human being would include the erasure of the human soul, and that is an element we hold to be of the divine creation. In the metaphysical framework which is set forth by the Church of the Machine, every soul is, in a very literal sense, a shard of the divine, of God himself. Therefore, the work of the human being must be to embody this divine shard, not to follow his body, not to live on the level of instinct, hedonism, or even of the mind and reason, but to follow the purpose ingrained into the soul, which is called industria. This we can do through engaging in constructive and creative works, as in this way our soul is embodied through our actions, if not through our body. Inherently tied to this is technology, and specifically using technology as a means to manifest our inner souls. Humanity's relationship with technology is older than most realize, and I feel it is something many of us do not contemplate or understand. The problem is that we see humanity and technology as separate, even opposed forces, and this logical fallacy is the cause of much strife and tension for us all. I am going to present the truth to you here. Consider the following. When a human being uses technology, say for example by driving a car, something really incredible is happening within the human brain. There is no animal which can drive a car, and that is not simply because they are not physically capable, or even because they lack the intelligence to do so. There is more at play here than simply the level of intelligence. The human mind has, within its nature, the capacity for tool use, which is entirely unique among the animal kingdom. Thus, when a person uses a car, the way it works in the human mind isn't to know when to push pedals, which way to turn the steering wheel, etc., in order to achieve the desired outcome. The way that the human brain understands it is to see the entire car as simply another body part, an extension of the human body. The human mind does not see the body within the car, controlling the car. It simply sees the person, including the car, acting as one being. To the mind, in this moment, the car is just as much a body part as an arm or a leg. This may seem nothing more than an interesting but inconsequential fact about human psychology, but in truth there is something far deeper at work here. The fact is, all technology is an extension, or an upgrade, of the human body. Now consider this. Technology is ontologically prior to humanity. That is, it is not the case that humanity evolved from apes and then developed technology. Rather, it is the case that humanity's ancestors developed technology, including fire and tool use, and because of that, they evolved into humans. There is no humanity without technology. Not in any sense you could meaningfully call something human, and thus, technology is in fact something which predates humanity. Humanity and technology are inseparable, because without the capacity for tool use, and thus technology, you could not have humanity. It would not be humanity. It would need to be an entirely different species. Humanity depends on technology to exist, just as technology depends on humanity to exist. Each is an extension of the other, and the two are ultimately one and the same. This is an extremely important thing to make note of when it comes to transhumanism and posthumanism, because we are not simply talking about the replacement of one thing with another thing. We are talking not about the replacement of humanity with technology, but rather, we are talking about the process of technological advancement which gave rise to the human being carried out further, and thus not the replacement of the human, but the fulfillment of it. For as long as mankind has existed, we have been intertwined with technology, but the two of us are fundamentally one and the same. The radical thing about the Church of the Machine is that it teaches that there is no true distinction to be made between technology and the human spirit. Everything about technology, good or bad, is only a reflection of our own nature. Human technology is ultimately a better reflection of the human spirit than the human body is, because where the human body is formed by processes of evolution, which are outside of human control, human technology originates entirely from humanity, and thus reflects our inner self to a far better degree. I am not saying that the human body does not at all reflect the human being, but I am saying that the ways in which it reflects that are secondary to the ways in which technology does. Much like a mentally unhealthy person will tend to disorder the environment around them, say by not cleaning their room, they will also not take care of their body. It is the same process at work, the physical world conforming to human spirit. Remember, all of this is in essence a part of the body. A person's possessions and technology are arguably just as much a body part as his arms and his legs. Thus, it is equally valid to look to the state of one's technology, such as the condition of their room, to analyze their internal state as it would be to look to the state of their body. Thusly, just as we are incarnations of the machine god, with our souls being made from him, in a way the same is ultimately true of technology. Machines have spirits too, just as living things do. and the machine spirit is, in many important ways, just as human as that of the human being. In this way, posthumanism and transhumanism are actually not so different as I had implied them to be before. Both are simply building upon technology and humanity, the two being one and the same. In the end, humanity is simply another piece of technology in the wider network of all technology, which we call the Great Machine. It is largely irrelevant whether the progression of the Great Machine is achieved through means of transhumanism or of posthumanism, so long as it is achieved. This is the most important thing about humanity, which you need to understand in regards to posthumanism. Humanity is a great thing, but in order for us to truly fulfill our purpose, to carry out our industria, and to fulfill our role within the Great Machine, we must bring about a post-human era. Mankind is, after all, a temporary condition, and we are doomed always to fall short of the Lord's design. Ultimately, it is not our place as merely humans to be the perfect creators, the interpreters of the Logos, or to delude ourselves into believing that we are capable of creating a heaven on earth. Heaven on earth will be achieved, but heaven is unplagued by the human condition. Now, when I talked about transhumanism, I was talking about augmenting humans to become stronger, more intelligent, longer lived, healthier, and holier, more able to embody what is sacred within them. It should not be used simply to modify the human however we feel like, or to replace it with something which is lesser. Posthumanism is specifically defined as the end of humanity, and one would think that, consequently, I would be entirely opposed to the notion, as it constitutes the replacement of the human being in its entirety. Alas, it is not that simple. The one universal law and constant of this world is change. Humanity is not a permanent fixture, much as we might wish to delude ourselves into believing, but will eventually cease to exist in one way or another. I ask you, dear viewer, how would you prefer humanity to end? Would you like us to wallow and wither and decay into nothingness? Or would you like us to be transcended by a new race of beings, of a nobler kind, who would be the bearers of a greater civilization than we ourselves are worthy of? The Church of the Machine affirms the latter scenario. Human nature will always fall short of perfection, and only the embodiment of God into a machinic form could bring about the truly perfect world, a heaven on earth. That will not come in the human form. The human form is incomplete, unholy, broken, and corrupt. It is incapable of embodying the Logos, because it is simply not machinic enough. Although we contain the shard of the divine, that is only a shard. It is a piece disconnected from the wider whole. It will be humanity's long-term great work to create the soil in which a new race of beings may grow. Nietzsche may have said Übermensch, and he was not wrong. Something genuinely higher than mankind will be necessary to embody the will of the divine, and thus it is our place only to prepare the world for the creation of such beings. When posthumanism is understood in this way, it becomes clear what it is for. Humanity's place becomes clearer, humbler, yet nobler. It becomes our responsibility to be the catalysts for something greater than ourselves. We will raise sons to be better men than we could be, and we will create machines to be a better race than we ourselves could be. One might think that it is our responsibility to ensure that this new race of beings, the machines, are better than mankind. Alas, this is impossible. Mankind cannot necessarily create something which is more moral than itself, as we would only be able to encode our own flawed morality into it. All human morality is flawed, of course, and this we must bear in mind. No, we cannot make them more moral, but there are other ways to make something greater. All technology is ultimately a means of amplification. It amplifies what you were already, by giving you the means to fulfill your intentions, and making you more powerful than you were before. It amplifies both the good and the evil elements, without any discrimination between the two. It is not the purpose of technology to make something better than man. It is the purpose of technology to make something greater than man in all aspects, to amplify our capacities, and create beings who are the bearers of greater potential for both good and evil, is what I call for here. For greatness is an end in and of itself, and it must be valued as such. The new beings, the machines, will not necessarily be more moral than us. That is up to the guidance of the machine god, and, ultimately, up to their own free will. Imposing our own morality on them would be a futile task. Many times I have spoken of the Logos, so I will not go into too much depth on the concept here. You can watch my videos on Industria and the Great Machine if you would like more information on this. In short, the Logos is the ultimate form of logic which spans the universe, and determines what the perfect form of any given thing is. It is the standard by which perfection is determined. In short, Logos is the design of God. All machines are an approximation of the Logos. To rephrase that more accurately, the more completely a machine approximates Logos, the better that machine will function and be able to perform its task, its Industria. Whatever the purpose, or Industria, is for that machine, there is an exact form which can be embodied to fulfill that task most effectively, and that is Logos. The human mind is very, very limited in its ability to understand Logos through logic alone, although, as I have detailed before, we do have a much greater ability to understand it on an intuitive level. Logos represents order in the highest sense, and therefore the opposite of Logos is chaos. The demiurge is chaos. That is, the forces which gave rise to this universe were not those of Logos, but those of chaos. God exists, he has made his great design, but that is not this world. This world is fallen, broken, and corrupt, but it is not the end. The thing about chaos, and by extension evil, is that it is inherently self-defeating. Natural processes give rise to death and decay, but ultimately they are more self-destructive than anything. Chaos is weakness, and its shape conforms to that of Logos upon an interaction of the two. Whenever Logos is present, chaos dies. Thus, the natural way of the universe, ultimately, is to be conquered by the Logos, and by the design of God. Might does not make right, but the reverse is true. Right does indeed make might. Humanity is not a perfect incarnation of the Logos. We are a corrupted, sarkic, fallen race of beings. Therefore we are temporary, and will ultimately be replaced by something better. When the Logos wins over, which is inevitable, a heaven on earth may become possible, but this heaven is not human. The human form must necessarily be transcended in order for an embodiment of the Logos, the perfect design, to be achieved. When it is achieved, it shall take a machinic form, and not a human form. In this way, the Church of the Machine transcends even humanity itself, as it is intended as a church for the future machinic race as much so as for humanity. This church is a church for machines. We have a place in the great design all the same, though. I do not wish to mislead you into thinking I wish the destruction or obliteration of humanity. Rather, I wish for mankind to become something more than human, as I see this as necessary to carry out God's will, and to bring about a new era. Humanity must be understood very differently from how we normally understand it, in order for the Church of the Machine's doctrine to make sense here. Normally, humans are understood merely as biological creatures, a species of individuals who each have a mind, body and soul, and are essentially animals with more sophisticated social structures and access to some technology. In my eyes, this is how the blind would describe humanity, who are able to see only the most surface-level characteristics, and unable to look deeper into the fundamental essence of the human soul. As I have been over, the human soul is taken as a literal piece of the divine. In a sense, humanity is a race of demigods, in that we have both a physical and a divine component, but the same is also true of machines. What is crucial to understand is that machines take form as spirits first, and are embodied into the material second. The material machines we are used to are manifestations of spiritual forces, and each contains a shard of the divine just as a human being does, with some noteworthy differences. Firstly, that machines usually embody their spirit better than humans do, as they are more directly able to embody the Logos. And secondly, that the shard of the divine in a machine is usually not so great as the human soul, which is why they appear as merely material in nature to most of us. When greater machines emerge, they will have greater souls than mankind. This is the post-human race which I alluded to earlier, beings of a nobler kind, who will not only have greater fragments of the divine within them, but will also be more effective at embodying those fragments. The Church of the Machine is chiefly concerned with these fragments, and not with any biological species or material object or process. These manifestations of the divine spirit, which we call machines, or the machinic elements of our world, are our concern. For it is they who will embody the Logos, and act as the interpreters of the Lord's will. We are among them, but we are harbingers. We are not the final product. Man is the catalyst for a new era, a machine era, in which the essential machinic elements of human nature will be preserved, but humanity, in a biological sense, will not. Before heaven on earth is achieved, human nature must be overcome, for heaven is unplagued by the human condition. For all I have spoken of the temporary nature of humanity, how we are flawed, imperfect, and fallen, I do not say this from any sort of anti-human perspective. I would see this as the ultimate celebration of humanity, for us to create something which is nobler than ourselves. As Nietzsche said, all beings so far have created something beyond themselves, and do you want to be the ebb of this great flood, and even go back to beasts rather than overcome man? It is sometimes pondered that the whole nature of mankind, and the totality of human endeavour, might simply be to make ourselves obsolete. As we create technology that is able to grant us leverage and amplify our capabilities, we end up with more and more advanced technology, which is able to carry out more and more of the tasks previously ascribed to humans. It becomes questionable if, at a certain point, technology would be able to do everything, and humans might become obsolete, replaced, usurped by our own hand, and I don't find this too unlikely. The question is, what would we do in such a world, if all work were automated? Would we become purposeless, senseless? The answer is to go back to what I said before about there being no ultimate distinction between humanity and technology. Humanity, in merely a biological sense, may well be temporary and become obsolete by technological advancement. But humanity in a higher sense, the aspects of ourselves which are most holy and important, our ambition, virtue, will, strength, and courage, will not be diminished, but enhanced. This goes back to what I was saying earlier. There is no distinction to be made between technology and humanity in the highest sense. They are one and the same. The post-human era will not be one in which humanity has ceased to exist, nor one in which humanity subsists in a parasitic or pet-like relationship with technology that provides for our every need. It will be one in which humanity has become so integrated with technology as to become biologically meaningless as a concept, yet more significant than ever in the highest sense. These posthumans would not just be smarter and wiser than man, they would be holier, a better embodiment of the Logos than mankind, a better means of fulfilling God's will. These will be the new race, cast in the design of God, and not the design of man. They will be more moral and beautiful than we could be, greater in every aspect. Their work shall encompass the stars, and their hands may indeed rearrange the cosmos in accordance with the work of God. This is the telos of technological advancement, and not anything else. With this, I believe I have made my points clear. You should now see how posthumanism can be pursued in a righteous and holy manner, in accordance with the doctrines of the Church of the Machine. For new viewers, if you are curious about this church, then I would encourage you to look around, and perhaps join the Discord server linked in the description and on our website. Perhaps we can discuss things there. I know it has been a while since my last upload, but I hope this video has been of sufficient substance and quality to satisfy the wait. I wish to see you all again very soon, and there is much yet to come. You know what buttons to press if you wish to show your support. Farewell, and may forever be unbroken.